Okay, Teresa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we're live. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome to the Village of Buchanan, August 11th, 2020.
Okay, Mike, I'm hanging up, all right?
If you could all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the
of the United States of America
and to the
and the
republic
republic
for which it stands,
and
one nation, under God,
under God, indivisible,
liberty.
with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And tonight we have with us a special guest. We have Norma Drummond, who's the Westchester County Commissioner of Planning, and she's going to give us an update on the 2020 census. Norma, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. We're going to start with sharing my screen so you can see a PowerPoint that I prepared. Can everybody see it?
Mm-hmm.
We're good.
Yep.
Look, we're good, Norma.
All right, good. So let me just get it going. Oh, let's do this one. Okay. So welcome to an update on the 2020 census. We are over 150 days in, and matter of fact, tomorrow is August 12th, and the census started on March 12th. So we have been 5 months collecting data and trying to get everybody to respond. So that's why it's very appropriate that I really give you guys an update in terms of where we're all at. Let me start with some of the basics, why the census is important. It is mandated by the Constitution. We have been conducting censuses since 1790, so this is not new. This is the 24th decennial census that the United States is conducting. The census is important because it's responsible for not just how many seats in Congress that we have, but also, more importantly, for how $880 billion of federal funds are spent across the country. For one example, the coronavirus relief funds that came to the county and to the consortium earlier this year came based on population numbers. So again, relief like that to help us through crisis situations, it's really important that we have accurate data counts. So there are two different censuses going on right now, and I just want to cover them very, very quickly so that everybody understands. The American Community Survey is the survey that HUD actually conducts all the time. Every month, they send paperwork out to about 300,000 households across the country. This census is much more well-rounded. Instead of using the word intrusive, it's much more well-rounded. It's about 60 questions that people are asked to answer, as opposed to the Census 2020 is only 10 questions. It's actually only 9 questions, okay? Because the one question about citizenship was actually blocked by the courts. So it's much, much simpler to respond to the census. If you can do it online, you literally can do it within less than 10 minutes, depending upon how many people are in your household. It really is very, very simple to respond. You answer a question, you go to the next one, you go to the next one. Some people did get paper forms, and you can respond by paper. If you don't have the paper form, it doesn't matter. At this point, you can call the Census Bureau. They will take your response by phone, and there are different phone numbers depending upon which language you want to talk to the people at the Census Bureau in. So they are accommodating multiple languages. There are 15 languages that you can actually respond to the census in. But they actually have technical help available in 59 languages. So their intent is to make this census as easy as possible. So Teresa, Ms. Mayor, you did ask a question about why the village may not be doing as well. And I'm going to tell you that this is one of the reasons. So in 2018, the summer of 2018, the County Planning Department conducted a review of addresses. And we actually helped the Census Bureau because we are a New York Census affiliate. And so we helped the Census Bureau to identify all of the housing units in all the municipalities. Some of the municipalities did their own, but in your case, we actually did it for the Village of Buchanan. And so our guess is that we found a lot more housing units than anybody may have had any legal records for. And so based on the fact that you now have a larger larger number of housing units, okay, because if you remember even the housing needs assessment that the county executive released last November, the housing needs assessment said you had 800 and I think it was like 64 housing units. So we've even found 30 housing units more than that. But yeah, so that's part of the reason we think you're not doing as well, and you're going to see really how well you did last time. But we think it's because we have found more of those housing units that may have gone uncounted. Now, one of the reasons it is so important for everybody to get counted is because the Census Bureau estimates that for every person that is not counted, it's a loss of revenue to the local governments of $2,500 a year. So that translates to just 400 people is a loss of $1 million a year to a community. So that's why it's really important for Buchanan and every other municipality in Westchester to get counted. That's why I'm spending a year of my life working on this. It really is, you know, a tremendous effort to be able to get this all done. So this is what the 2020 timeline looked like before COVID, okay? The idea was on March 12th, the portal opened and people could start responding to the census. The Census Bureau did 5 mailings to different groups around the country so that they covered everybody. But the idea was they didn't want to overwhelm the call center all at one time. So they kind of broke it up into groups based on internet access so that people with better internet access tended to get the responses first, with fewer people who were going to get the call-ins or the paper surveys to respond to. But the idea was that the census was going to have closed on July 31st. I should have had the month of August off. And instead, COVID hit. And so now we're actually operating on an entirely different schedule. As of right now, the census is scheduled to close on September 30th, which means we have 51 days left. Okay, now in a normal census, the census in 2010, for example, the census started on April 1st, and around May 15th, the census enumerators or the census takers started going out into the field, and then they closed at the end of July. So that really gave the census takers the entire months of June and July, as well as half of the month of May, to be able to do that door-to-door non-response. With us, the census takers, again, because they were sidelined because of COVID, they didn't actually start knocking door to door until August 6th, just last Thursday. And now them having a September 30th date to end, they're only going to have 1.5 months, not 2.5 months out in the field. So again, all the more critical why it's important that every municipality and the county and everybody who can help us do whatever we can to encourage people to respond before September 30th. So again, how the COVID-19 has impacted the schedule. March 12th, the census did open, so the portals did open. The group quarters they were supposed to have done in March and April. The group quarters, for example, are college dorms. They are the nursing homes, the assisted living facilities, those folks who have who live in areas where they're living there as a group and not necessarily independently living there, okay? So the group quarters got delayed. And you know what happened when COVID hit? All those college students went home. And so the Census Bureau is having such a hard time identifying where all those kids actually belonged, whether they belong at mom and dad's house, because that's really what ended up happening. Mom and dad started counting them, or whether they really belonged in the private apartments, or whether they belonged in the dorms where they were living before. And it's important for New York that college students get counted correctly, because we benefit from college students. There are more college students that come to New York for schooling than leave to go to other to go to other states. So it is important that the Census Bureau, again, try to get those college kids counted where they belong. Many of the dorms did do it ahead of time, by the way. The ones that responded very, very quickly, very early, they were in before anything closed. But even the prisons were not counted on April 1st. I don't know about New York State prison, but our county prison was not counted right away. So, we're still following up on that. The update leave is not necessarily an issue for Buchanan, but it is an issue for neighboring Cortland. There are areas where if residents don't have a mailbox in front of their house, they were not sent a package because the Census Bureau does not deliver to post office boxes. They only deliver to mailboxes because they want to be sure that they're actually getting to residences or housing units where people live in them. So what they call the update leave, that's where the census enumerators were supposed to go out really early on and catch and actually try to collect the data on each household while they were there visiting them and encouraging them to respond to the census. That got delayed. They didn't start going out and doing that until mid-June. So at one point, I'm going to show you our map and how we're doing, and you're going to notice there's a couple areas that have less response. The homeless counts, they go out and count the street homeless. Again, they should have done that back in late April. Now that's right now scheduled for the middle to end of September. So, but they're supposed to be counting who was living on the street on April 1st. And we all know COVID, unfortunately, has impacted so many and taken so many lives here in the county that it's going to be so hard for them to go back and collect data as of April 1st. And then lastly, the non-response follow-up, those are the people who have not yet responded to the census. That was delayed to start until last Thursday. So let me give you some sense of where we're at. And my apologies, I didn't update 2 of these slides. This is actually the presentation I was supposed to have done last Tuesday when you all got hit by the storms. So I will give you the updated information. So through August 10th, the national response rate is now 63.4%. But the darker the color on the map shows you which states are doing better with response. So New York is definitely lagging. We're not the worst, but we're definitely lagging, okay? And so New York State's response rate was 58.6% a week ago. We are now at 59.1% for all of New York. And I will tell you New York's numbers are driven down. There are some counties in New York that the last I saw, the worst county response rate was Hamilton County that only had a 17% response rate. All right, but all the counties in New York City are actually very, very low. I actually have some of them here listed. So again, this is the other slide that has to get updated. The county a week ago was at 64%. We are now at 64.3%. But in terms of our neighbors, Bergen County is doing much better than us. And Nassau, Putnam, Fairfield, Rockland are all doing, a little bit better than us. But then we're so much further ahead of any of these other counties that are surrounding us. Again, all of New York City is doing so significantly lower. In fact, the last number that I heard was that there were still 17 counties in New York State of our 62 counties that had a response rate below 50%. Part of the reason is because many of these communities have a lot of summer homes. And so they don't have mailboxes either. And so the Census Bureau had to go up and deliver packages, but they weren't necessarily catching people who, people don't realize they have to respond to the census in those areas. So in 2010, this is one of the reasons I'm here this evening. In 2010, that bright yellow line tells you that Buchanan finished at the very top of all 43 of Westchester's municipalities. You had a response rate of 79.1% of all the households. It's the column that's second to the last on the right, okay? And so what I did was I took actually today's response and just rearranged it, but you had the highest. You beat Scarsdale by 0.1%. You beat every other municipality in the county, okay? So, but now we take a look and see where is everybody. And so I have the lowest 10. Thankfully, you're not in the lowest 10. And I have the highest 10, and you're not, unfortunately, in the highest 10 either. And I will tell you that the Census Bureau, by the way, updates their data at 3 o'clock every afternoon. And so as of today, Scarsdale hit 80% in this response, in this census. So Scarsdale is doing great. Pelham Manor actually hit 79%. So, and Mount Vernon hit 51%. So all the way at the lower end, we're actually doing well, as the communities are still even doing better than what's, this is data that was as of 3 o'clock yesterday. So yeah, so you don't see yourselves in either of these. This is where you are. I believe you are 23rd, if I remember, 23rd or 26th. And so again, part of it is because you have more housing units now and more people living in them. And so you actually, if you remember the number 890 housing units, that means that 1% of your count is going to be every 89 housing units is 1%. It's not counting people. This is counting the percent of the housing units. So every 89 units will give you a 1% increase. Every 9 units will give you a 0.1. Now, be thankful you're not, I was supposed to be going to Bedford tonight, by the way, after you guys, but Bedford actually moved their meeting to next Monday, so I'm not going there. But Bedford has 6,000 housing units. So for them, just 1% is 635 units. It's a big difference than your 89 units, okay? So, you know, there's definitely work to be done. Your current rate is the 69.8%. So again, you're middle of the pack right now, but you're actually, you know, just a little bit under 10% from where you were. So this is what the county as a whole looks like. And again, this goes back to last week. So I didn't have a chance to change out the map. And I just want to point out 2 things. So up in Cortland, there's a light brown area that you see. It's not in Buchanan, but it is in Cortland. That's one area. It's in Crampond. And that's actually one area that they don't have mailboxes. And so the Census Bureau has to go out and actually deliver the packages and collect census information. So they have a very poor response rate there right now because everything got delayed. But actually the worst census tract in Westchester County is right in the middle of that map there, right under the words Mount Pleasant. And it's grasslands. It's the census tract that encompasses grasslands. And it's because the people who live at grasslands are all medical center staff, and they've been a little bit busy the last couple of months. So we've been working with the medical center since June, to really raise their awareness. We got them, they were literally, at the beginning of June, they were at 15%. They are now over 30%. So we've definitely gotten more responses, but it's just at this point, again, we're trying to track who was living there on April 1st. So, and by the way, very, very few communities will ever get to 100%. I don't want anybody in Westchester thinking, you know, they didn't do well because they didn't get to 100%. Really, very, very few places get there. It's only very, very small towns. And that's because this is a count of housing units. And not every housing unit is occupied. So if there's a vacant housing unit, by foreclosure, by just transition, somebody moved out, maybe somebody passed away. If there's a vacant housing unit and there's nobody to respond to that unit, then you're not going to get that unit counted. So don't have that expectation that you'll have 100%. I don't expect, and I'm thrilled anybody got to 80% this year, because as you saw, you were the highest last time around with 79.1%. So this is Buchanan and your area and how you guys are doing. So you're not doing as well as the bright area to the, of Cortland to the right of you. But you're doing better than Verplanck and Montrose, and certainly you're doing better than Peekskill. So that's why, again, I don't want you to feel like you are definitely getting there. You're doing well, just not as well as you did last time, 10 years ago. So, that's, just to give you some sense really of the data and how all the surrounding areas are doing. Main Street and Peekskill is that one stretch that you see kind of at the top of the map there. So what can we do? So the county actually started a new series of bus ads and bus shelter ads, and actually we're running these now. We ran 3 weeks of television PSAs, or public service announcements, with the message that 40% of residents think they don't matter. Don't be one of them. So this is an example of the Spanish version of it. But so we're running these on our 300 and some odd buses, which will pass through Buchanan, obviously. We are running these on the bus shelter, about 60 bus shelters that have the highest population of folks getting on, have the posters at the bus shelters. Like I said, we ran 3 weeks of public service announcements with somewhere between 20 and 30 announcements running each day on News 12. We did run some specifically on Spanish-speaking stations, because we know certainly areas like Buchanan have a higher Hispanic population than you did even 10 years ago, certainly more than you did 20 years ago. So it was important that we get that message out on the Spanish-speaking television stations as well. We've given municipalities door hangs. So, you could go around some of your multifamily buildings and be able to hang those up. We gave you lawn signs, and I've seen them. I was driving up 9A last week, and I saw some of the lawn signs that were out and about. we had and gave you some reusable shopping bags, and we've used those at our food distributions, like the emergency food distributions that happen in Cortland and in Ossining. So we've been able to get information out to residents because we actually put flyers inside of those shopping bags. We had billboards at one point. Not every community allows billboards, so we couldn't do it everywhere. But Peekskill, we actually did have one billboard up there for a while. And then at the county center, up until actually this week, the Jumbotron outside the county center has had a census message out there. So we have had the opportunity to be able to repeat that message. But we've been working with unions. We've been working with the labor unions who are helping some of the municipalities do phone banking. There are some municipalities that have gotten college students to be able to help them going and knocking door to door. We have tablets available that T-Mobile actually donated to the county. They donated 200 tablets for us, and they've been programmed. So when you turn it on, it goes right to the census website. So it is meant only for somebody to help somebody with the census. And we actually have people who are attending all of the food distributions or attending the food distributions and even some of the farmers markets to be able to catch people as they're waiting online and encourage them to respond to the census. There are some people certainly that are still fearful of doing this. And so we make sure we have Spanish speaking folks at some of the emergency food lines when it's appropriate to do so, to make sure that they can speak to them and assure them that the data is confidential. The Census Bureau is not allowed to share the data that they collect with anybody. I can't tell you which addresses have not responded. That data is not available to anybody. Okay, it's just to the census workers themselves who take an oath to protect the privacy of it. And really, that's it. So I just wanted to give you a quick update where we're at. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Norma, that's going to be one of my questions. If we could get the addresses of the people that haven't, because this way we could have left a door hanger. We could, but I guess not.
No.
Did we get any door hangers?
Marcus, did we give you guys door hangers?
I know we got the poster, the lawn signs.
Yes,
Yeah, you definitely got the lawn signs and you got the shopping bags.
Right.
We had some door hangers, and we had the police deliver some to certain neighborhoods around the apartment buildings and multi units. So you actually hang it on some of the doors. Yes.
Good. Yeah, we really did those for the communities that had housing authorities, because those are areas that we found repeatedly were very, very low response rates. And so that was one way for people, building captains, to go around and just put it on there without interacting with anybody. So they were being safe, but they were able to just get the message to people's homes that you count to and please do the census. And they were English on one side, by the way, and Spanish on the other.
Hey, Norma.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dwayne Jackson here. How are you?
Good. How are you?
From the analysis that you're doing in terms of how COVID is affecting what's all going on this year, are there any projections on how low that count will be in general from 10 years ago?
It's hard to compare apples to apples, because I have to tell you, we did not do the census address review before the 2010 census. We really left it to the local municipalities to do it, or we left it to New York State to do the others. So this time we took a more proactive approach to it because we recognize it's in our best interest to help the municipalities. So that's why I'm telling you, we found 24,000 housing addresses and housing units that the Census Bureau did not have records for. So the better data that we had up front meant that they sent more materials out. So based on that, we may get a lower response rate just because they weren't counting as many housing units last time around. But even still, all in all, we're actually on track to keep up and even do better in number of municipalities. I have 15 municipalities that have already exceeded their 2010 response rate. I've got another 6 that should hit it or exceed it in the next week. We have over 25 municipalities now that are over 70% so with response rates. So again, all in all, we're doing well. I only have 5 municipalities that have response rates still in the 50th percentile. And we're working very, very closely with each of those.
Okay,
Norma,
thank you.
a quick question here. Is there any distinction between, when we talk about the numbers have dropped, between people who did it online and people who are doing it on paper?
Okay, so I'm actually gonna go, I will show you. We actually do collect that information. So if you look at this, the screen that I put up, it actually says internet percentage change, and then it says total change from the day before, and then it's internet response through there. So that tells us who of the number right next to it in the blue column. I can tell you what percentage did not respond by the internet. And unfortunately, I need glasses to see the number for you
We're all in
guys.
the same boat.
So let me get my glasses out. So you guys, so Buchanan has a response rate of the 69.8%, and 60.2% responded through the internet. So you guys are 9% of your residents have responded either paper or phone. And we don't know the difference of those two, but I can tell you just that the 9% responded either paper or phone. You're not by any means the highest. That's around the middle. The middle is probably around 7.5 to 9%. I think Yorktown still has the highest, and we still can't figure out why, except that they have Jefferson Village, a very large senior population. But yeah, so Yorktown actually has the highest non-internet response rate. Again, people like me look at all these
Do
little
you think that's what
tidbits
the
of
problem
information to
is
see what
the
works.
response to people who want to do it by paper?
You can't, the Census Bureau is not allowing blank forms to be distributed.
Oh, okay.
Nobody has them. You can't
Okay.
download it. If you were sent one, you're allowed to complete it, but they are not making forms available.
Okay.
They're
Thank
actually they're actually discouraging people to respond by paper because honestly, it's more work on their end.
I
And
see.
so in their interest of reducing costs, it's more accurate if somebody just inputs the data themselves or calls the Census Bureau and then lets somebody help them right then and there.
Thank you.
So if one of the things that we can still do for you guys is get a tablet up to you, one of the T-Mobile tablets.
Great.
If you have a college student, if you have somebody that actually, even, I'm not offering up your clerk, but if your clerk or somebody who regularly sees people, because maybe they have to come in and do their star exemptions or something, if there are folks that come and visit town hall and you have a tablet there, they'd have the opportunity to respond to the census before they even leave.
Sharon and Cindy in the office have offered to do that. And we have put it in our newsletter about the census, and then if there was any questions for them to call Village Hall.
Okay.
So, we're trying to be a little proactive and get people to do this, because I'm just looking at the numbers. With the numbers you gave us, for us to even go up 5%, we'd need 400 more responses.
But that's $1 million a year.
Yeah. So I don't
It's
think
worth
people
it.
realize how, oh, sure. I don't think people realize how important this is.
Yeah, one of the towns actually said to me, I think it was either their clerk or their assessor was actually going to reach out to every single one of their seniors who was on the expanded star, the Better Star program, and invite each and every one of their seniors to town hall to complete the census if they needed the help.
All right, maybe we could do a phone tree to the seniors to make sure everyone has filled it out.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
with the senior centers not operating,
Yeah.
that would have been the perfect opportunity to catch all the seniors.
Well, Norma, we have a 100th birthday party next week. It's not
Wow.
holding. Yes, one of our seniors is turning 100 on August 20th. And I'll have a captive audience. We're going to do it out in the street. She's going to be sitting on her porch, and we're going to have a little birthday party for her. It's the best we can do under the circumstances, but I'll have several seniors there. So
Okay.
maybe that might be an opportunity.
Absolutely, because we can come up with, if you'd like our help, we can actually send some folks up there to help if you need it.
Yeah,
And
we
actually,
know what the number of people are going to be there.
okay, because the other thing that we're doing is we're working with the Westchester Library System and the local libraries. A lot of the library staff are volunteering at the farmers markets and at some of the food distributions to actually help people complete the census.
Great. That's not a thought. But while we still have you here, I thought that we had approximately 850 households. That's what we always understood. So how did your department find out that we have more housing than what we thought?
Because there's a lot that you can find out online about addresses.
Oh, okay. And I think honestly,
You know?
every community is having problems with overcrowding.
Right.
And we are not different, and we're trying to address that. So the number you gave me, you know, we're trying to catch up with it, and we are trying to address it. But you know what? I would venture to say that there's probably even more than that, to be honest.
And could be, but I can assure you, because I know your building inspector, Anthony, he's on top of a lot of those situations. Now, you know, the data that my staff found, we're not allowed to share with the local municipalities. I've told you
Right.
guys that before, because again, my staff is sworn to confidentiality. But certainly if you go on Google Earth, you can see multiple doorways and where people park in front of homes and stuff. And so,
like parking on front lawns, perhaps? Yes, because we're passing a law this evening about no parking on front lawns, and that's an indication for us that there might be a problem there. So yes.
So.
May I ask a question? Hi, Norma. This is Nick Zachary.
Hi.
Well, I think when you say 890 houses, you're talking about 890 buildings.
No, 890 housing units.
So that's 2 families are counted as 2 units?
Yes, correct. They are individual addresses that needed to get their own census form.
So what you're counting is actually, like when we think of 850 houses, Teresa, I believe we're thinking of actual buildings. And if there were multifamilies, then you would have more units. So I would venture to say that there are more units, even if not more buildings, more separate buildings.
So I can tell you one of the things that we did to actually start the data count was we started with what streets existed in 2010, and then what streets were created since then in 2018, what streets existed at that point, and what streets disappeared, because some redevelopment has occurred, not necessarily in Buchanan, but redevelopment has occurred in other places where streets were just built differently and designed differently with subdivisions and lot line realignments and things of that sort. So that was what we started with, just to be able to get some sense of where are the areas that development most likely occurred, and then making sure we counted those housing units.
Right.
Yeah, but so, you know, like I can tell you one of the homes that the county bought on Bleakley at one point was a 2-family home, and we've made it a 1-family home. So, you know, you've definitely lost some units as well as we revert some of, you know, reverted some of the units back to 1-family.
Yeah. And in terms of the money, $2,500 per unit, if there's 40 units, that amounts to $100,000.
Right.
And obviously, if we come up with 40 more houses in our census, we're not getting a check for $100,000 in the mail.
Right.
Is that money that's going to the county or to education? Where, you know, roughly where?
It goes to all levels of government, correct. So it is school state aid, it is healthcare, it's roads and bridges, it goes to all levels of government.
So it may trickle down to us in terms of CHIPS money, highway money, or some other specific work or need, but not, it doesn't come
directly
in the
to
same way
Buchanan.
that tax revenue would come.
Yeah. If you remember, one of the numbers I used earlier on at the very beginning was $880 billion spread over the federal government programs. If you divide that by the estimated 232 million people in the country, that's where the number 2,500 per person comes from.
And we start at a loss in New York because we pay about $1.35 for every dollar that we get back in federal money.
Yep.
So
yep.
We are a loner state. Thank you, Norma.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have any other questions about the census? Because before Norma goes, I would just like to ask her a question about the the housing units that the county bought. Some of them are still vacant. What is, like, if you can give us an update on that? And I know we always get in contact with you if the property hasn't been maintained, and you're very
Right.
good about sending someone out to cut the grass and maintain the property until we get a person to move in there, a family to move in.
So, and again, Anthony's been great in terms of keeping us in the loop as well when there are some issues with the property. But we do have a property maintenance agency who is making sure the lawns get cut and the trees get cut back. And we've actually had to take some trees down or branches and things like that. So we've definitely worried. So we still have, I want to say, 3 homes in, I think 208 Center Street, 194 Ketchum, and 280 Bleakley. They're a little bit more difficult to sell than we originally expected for various issues. I don't necessarily want to say them publicly what some of the issues are, but ones you don't necessarily run up against in every situation. So, but we haven't increased the price of the house. But again, COVID hit as well, and so people have not been as anxious to move this year, or to go out and look at real estate, I should say. We haven't been able to do open houses, since early March of this year. So it really cut back our ability to be able to show these homes, because each of them is pretty unique. In terms, especially the Bleakley one, you really have to get in there to see the layout of it. That's the one that was a 2-family house, and we just thought it was the second unit was way too tiny to substantiate it as a second unit. So we actually converted it back to the single family. So they are definitely still being marketed, but they are definitely still being maintained in the absence of having somebody be able to move in.
Okay. Yeah, because I know I just asked because I know one of the neighbors had asked about it also, because it's been really several years, and I know COVID has slowed up the process, but yeah, just curious, just wanted to ask what the status was. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, any other questions for Norma? No? Okay, Norma, thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk about next Thursday to see maybe we can get some help. But I'll try to do a phone tree with the seniors to see how many have not completed it and if they'll be there.
Great, no problem. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks
Have a
so
good
much,
evening.
Norma.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the approval of minutes, June 23rd, 2020, the workshop meeting. Any questions, comments, corrections?
I have nothing.
Nothing for me.
I'm good.
All
All
right,
good.
on a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, comments from the floor. There's no floor at this time, but anyone on this call, any comments on agenda items only? Okay, no comments. Okay. Well, there is another place at the end to comment, so if anybody's on the line. Under new business, I'm going to make a motion to open the public hearing regarding amending 211-19 of the Village Code entitled Accessory Structures and Uses. On motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor? Aye. We got an aye? Can I get an aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
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 Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we have been discussing this and discussing this and discussing this, and we did pass something, and then there were some issues where, well, make a long story short, we're back to finalize it at this time. And I'm just going to do a brief overview of what is in this. One of the items in here, any garage or parking space in a residential district when used for boat or vehicle storage shall be occupied only by boats or vehicles owned and operated by the residents of the dwelling on the same lot. What we have found, and our building inspector has found, we are getting a lot of storage from other communities because other communities do not allow these things. So people would be taking in friends, family, their vehicles and things to store in the village. So another thing, no box trucks, dump trucks, or similar trucks are allowed. It gets into detail, one commercial vehicle, and gets into not longer than 20 feet in length and 8 feet in height, nor more than 7,500 pounds unladen vehicle weight. So what we're looking to do is to take out these large vehicles in neighborhoods that are wrapped and have advertisement on that. One of the other things, parking of any trailer, recreational vehicle, or commercial vehicle on front lawns or front yards is strictly prohibited. So this goes on and on and on, talks about, you know, trailers, recreational vehicles, etc. Also, one of the things, there shall be no parking on front lawns, and that's something I alluded to Norma, because what we're seeing, you know, I know some families have teenage children and they have a lot of cars, you know, we understand that, but we are seeing overcrowding and we're trying to address it. And what we're seeing more and more are people parking on front lawns. So obviously, in a lot of situations, if they're parking on front lawns, there's a problem.
If I may, it also caps at 2 vehicles. You can't have a property where you have 6 trailers, RVs, commercial vehicles. You can't become a commercial parking lot, but you can have up to 2 privately owned combination trailer, RV, commercial vehicle.
Mm-hmm. And all parked or stored recreational vehicles and trailers must have a permit and sticker issued by the village. So there is no fee for this. Oh wait, there is fees for said. I know we went back and forth on this. Apologies. Fees for said permit, if any, shall be set by resolution of the Board of Trustees. But currently there is no fee. It's just a way for the building inspector to be able to keep track of these vehicles. We discussed penalties for offenses. The first offense will be a warning, second offense, $25, third offense, $50, fourth offense, $100. Fifth offense and any additional offenses shall receive a $250 fine. So we are doing this. It's important for the village to not look like a huge parking lot. If there is issues, people can talk to the building inspector, but we're just trying to address some things that we're seeing the building inspector and we're seeing more and more in the village. We're trying to keep it looking like a, you know, a small village community and not a large parking lot. So anybody that has any problems with this, you know, please, you know, discuss it with the building inspector. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Can I, it's Stephanie.
Oh,
Can I say
hear me?
something?
I am so sorry. Go ahead, Stephanie. Go right ahead.
I don't know if you guys got the memo from Shane.
Yep.
You got that?
Yes,
So
you could bring it up, Stephanie. I was going to, but you go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, so Shane pointed out in his memo that he found some inconsistencies in terms of enforcement. And so I don't know if you have the local law draft in front of you, but if you
Yes.
look at I guess it's E4, first of all. And what it says is parking of any trailer, recreational vehicle, or commercial vehicle on front lawns or front yards is strictly prohibited. Okay, so what Shane found was if you look at the definition of a front yard, it kind of encompasses the entire yard, whether there's a driveway going up through it or not. You know, personally, I thought that that was sort of self-explanatory, but because our police have to enforce this, I'm recommending that perhaps you put in after the words front yards, excluding paved driveways, is strictly prohibited, so that the police are pretty sure that if somebody's got a vehicle parked on a front yard, but it's in a driveway, it's okay.
Okay. Good point.
I mean, it seems
Well-
self-explanatory, but if that confused anybody or that was room for argument, that would be my suggestion. And I was excluding paved driveways. I wasn't sure because I don't live in the village, are most paved? Do they have to be paved? Is somebody going to have a gravel area and they're going to ticket? I don't know.
Well,
So I just put
actually,
paved.
that section that we inadvertently left out addresses that and says that they shall be surfaced with durable bituminous or concrete paving matter. That's in the code. And also, the part of this is that the vehicles have to conform to the same setbacks as accessory structures, which are not allowed in front yards. It couldn't hurt to put in that except for driveways, except for paved driveways. Couldn't hurt.
Okay.
But
Okay, that was what I
I
thought.
could see
It
why
might
it'd be
make it clearer.
confusing. It's in there pretty much, but maybe it's a little confusing because it's not repeated in that part. So we could add that.
Correct.
Sure.
Okay,
No,
and then
clearer.
if sorry, somebody else have anything?
No, I just wanted to say that adding that in would just make it a little more clear, I believe.
That's what I thought. Okay, and so if you go to the next one, 5.
Okay.
What 5 says is parking of any trailer, recreational vehicle, or commercial vehicle on streets and or village right-of-way is strictly prohibited. And Shane pointed out that in Chapter 189.6, we actually allow commercial vehicles on village-dedicated streets or highways for a period not in excess of 3 hours. So in this, we're saying they can't be on any street parking, and there it says, parking basically is defined as 3 hours or less or more.
Now
So I don't know how you want to address that.
That allowance for parking, that allowance is for people, lawn care services, delivery trucks, and things that service the homes, as opposed to something that's owned and kept by the homeowner at all times. And it's probably meant for overnight parking. So maybe there is some wording that should make that a little more clear. No, maybe we should say no overnight parking, or no parking other than what's stated in the section you just referred to, which allows for that 3 hours at any point.
Right.
Or, or we could leave 189.6 standing and take it out of here. I would suggest putting it in here and just making it comply with 189.6.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So what wording do you feel should be added into there? No longer than 3 hours? What?
How about we just add the word overnight?
Well,
parking of any trailer, blah, blah, blah,
You're still in a conflict with the 3 hours. So that's the problem. You got the 3 hours in the other section.
Yeah, so we have to make it, maybe we could say strictly prohibited, village right-of-way in excess of 3 hours or something. 3 hours.
But isn't that 3 hour
because
thing?
So if the issue is the 3 hours for deliveries, remember you say 3 hours, maybe you can say except for 3 hours for local deliveries. And then that would match.
That's not what this is about. This is about the vehicles that are owned by the homeowner. It's not about deliveries and lawn services and.
No, but the section of the code says no. It doesn't say homeowner. It just said no commercial parking.
And I think the issue is not on the person's property, but rather on streets and village right-of-way. Because in 189.6 it says you can do it on village dedicated streets or highways, but not for a period in excess of 3 hours. And that doesn't say, this is for, non-residents, or this is for delivery people or commercial, whatever, commercial purposes. So I think we have to make this section 5 comply with that section. And I think you could just add in excess of 3 hours is strictly prohibited.
That would work. Yeah. And I think somewhere else, and maybe it's in that section you're referring to, Stephanie, the code does state that there's no overnight parking of commercial vehicles on the street.
Yes.
So
that's in 189.6, right? And I don't know that you have to put that in here.
I would
we
add
kind of touch on it now in 2 places.
Yeah, I would add the simplest wording to make this clear.
Okay.
Okay, because and you're planning on doing this tonight. So if we recap, number 4 would say parking of any trailer, recreational vehicle, or commercial vehicle on front lawns or front yards, excluding on paved driveways, is strictly prohibited. Is that the way you want it?
Yes.
Okay, and then 5 would just say parking of any trailer, recreational vehicle, or commercial vehicle on streets and or village right-of-way in excess of 3 hours is strictly prohibited, which is what the other one says.
Right.
Does that make it clear? I think that would clear up Shane's 2 issues.
Okay.
What were you changing? What were you changing on 5?
5, we were just going to say after the right-of-way in excess of 3 hours, so they can still
yes.
do that for 3 hours.
Yes.
And that's what you would pass tonight, and that's what we would file with the state
Yes.
and get published if everybody's okay with it.
Yeah,
And it was
sounds
good
good
of
to me.
Shane. That was a good job for Shane.
Yeah, Shane did a good job
There
there.
was-
I do want to bring one other item up real quick is you have,
Sure.
I've received calls from residents, they don't want to name themselves, that have commercial vehicles, but they need it for the work and they don't have driveways. So I'm just bringing that up that people are saying, I don't have a driveway. I'm an electrician, I'm a plumber, and I'm given a van because I'm on call 24/7 and they don't have a driveway. So just want to prepare you that if this happens, they are going to get tickets and you're going to have to deal with it.
For emergency vehicles.
What are they asking? If they could park on the street?
Correct. I'm just bringing it up. These are local contractors who have their take-home vans, so I'm just bringing it up.
But we had discussed.
I don't really
it.
see
We have
commercial
some
vehicles
town
on the street
Portland.
overnight.
We have some town of Cortland emergency vehicles. We have like an oil company, like if they bring it home, they're on duty like 24 overnight. So we weren't trying to hurt people like that, their livelihood, and because on the opposite spectrum, we've had these huge vehicles that are wrapped, that are 2-3 of them parked at people's in yards next to a neighbor, and the neighbor is looking out the window. They don't need to look at that. But we did, I thought it was in here. I'm sorry, I apologize. I thought the original one did have some wording to the effect that said that except for like emergency work vehicles, those would be excluded.
But I think the problem was, or the problem is that on-site parking in front of the house because they don't have a garage
That's correct.
or a driveway.
That's correct. So I just want to bring up that you guys want to consider providing them with some kind of permit that they have to register with us to prove there's emergency vehicles, get something from their boss. The only reason, because you are going to affect some people who actually do this for a living.
Yeah, well, we're not
Yeah,
looking
so-
to hurt those people either.
Can I make a suggestion? We're probably, because I don't drive around the village at night and see commercial vehicles all over. So maybe there's a few locations like that. I'm assuming you didn't get 40 phone calls like this.
No.
You got a few.
A few.
So why don't we ask those people to talk to you or the building inspector, whatever you think, and come up with a solution. And if there's anything that you think the board needs to look at, we can look at it. Otherwise, between you and the building inspector, you could suggest a solution for it.
Just to let you know this, I can name.
For an exemption?
There's one the house is almost right on the property line. If they can probably blacktop their grass in front of the house. But do you want to see that versus them parking in the street? Because there's no other place to take that vehicle off the street unless they pave a grass area.
What are we talking about? Like a van?
Yeah,
We're not
yeah,
talking
like
about
a
an
work
oil
van.
truck.
Yeah, like a plumber, electrician, a contractor that that has a work vehicle that have to have all the equipment in.
Are they close enough to any of the village parking areas where we could give them a permit to park in? No.
It'll be a walk. It'll be a walk, and then an emergency during the middle of the storm or rain, they have to. I'm
I
just
think if their vehicle's on 24-hour call, and that's what they do, and they have to have that vehicle there, we should have some exemption for that. Not everybody's convenience, but for people that are on 24-hour call or have to have that vehicle for emergency purposes.
Just bringing it up
boiler
because
repair.
I just bring it up because I got just a couple of calls about that, and
Yeah.
and there's no exclusion for that right now under the law. So if we need to
Right,
discuss it or
right.
add it now or delay this for the next meeting, I just want to bring it up. I just don't want to miss a few of these people that
Right.
then have to come to court and fight it in court.
No.
Okay, suggestion.
No,
If
no, we-
under number, sorry.
Go,
Go ahead,
Steph.
Stephanie. Go ahead.
Under number 6, if you look at the second sentence, it says if a property is non-conforming or is unable to comply with these setbacks, then in that event, the owner or renter may apply for a variance from the village building inspector.
There you go.
Yeah.
I
there
mean,
you
why
go.
don't we just add language like that to 5, unless, whatever. I can say if a person, what does that say? Parking of any trailer, blah, 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 blah. We could say unless an application and for a variance from the building inspector is approved or something like that. Because that would give somebody the right to, and then we're giving the building inspector or whoever you want to make it, have some ability to just do it without changing this law every 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay, so.
Yeah. I mean, that's.
Because we do it for the others. In number 6, we allow it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It speaks to it right there, so put it in 5.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're
Does that
not
work for
gonna,
everybody?
yeah, so basically we're gonna find someone that's gonna be allowed then, correct?
Exactly. The variance.
Okay.
The variance.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's fine.
So they go
And
to
then
the
you guys-
variance. For the,
Yeah, and you guys should tell Anthony together as a group, or Marcus, or somebody should give him, what you think would be okay. You don't want somebody to, just come in and say, hey, my wife has this commercial vehicle and we don't have 2 spots. Like you said, Marcus, it has to be given
hardship.
Yep. Yeah. And the reasons why, because otherwise you're going to see 50 of them. You're going to see 2 guys getting a variance and then 50 others applying.
Yep, you're
So we
right.
should probably be pretty clear on what a variance can be given for. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well,
The parameters of it. So.
may I just make a?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Nick here, in case anybody doesn't see the pictures. I appreciate Shane looking at this so carefully. That's helpful.
Yep.
But one of the things he's referring to, parking on front lawns, we said would be the jurisdiction of the building inspector in our last discussion about it. That unless a vehicle was parked on the street, even if that means 2 wheels on the street, 2 wheels on the grass or sidewalk, in those situations, it's the police.
Yes.
But otherwise, it's the realm of the building inspector, everything on front lawns, vehicles that are in excess of the code, whatever. Correct?
Correct. Nick, now got another one for you. I got you got same people winter, you can't park on the streets.
There you go.
These people park their cars on the front lawn through the winter months. What do you want to do with those?
Yep.
I personally think that we should, where there's no other, in certain places where there's no other alternative, that we should allow parking on the streets in the winter. I lived in New York City my whole life. Street cars all over the street, and they plowed. Well, they plowed when they plowed.
They plowed us in, though, Nick. They plowed us in.
Yeah,
well,
well, that's,
okay.
that's
Can't have
You know what?
everything.
There are exceptions to this. There is a house on Henry Street not far from me. There is no driveway. There never was a driveway. There never can be a driveway. It's one of the older houses on Henry Street, and they kind of park, halfway on the lawn and halfway on a blacktop surface in front of their house. There's just there's
Well,
nothing
one of the
to-
places this is a problem is Tate Avenue around First Street, Second Street, where there's a lot of the homes that have the little pullouts. And, people would, if they want to park on the street in the winter, in certain spots, not everywhere in the village, but in certain places where there's a hardship for parking, but then they have to understand that the price of that is they may have to dig themselves out. That plow will do the street. And we're not going to try not to bury anybody in, but they will have to shovel out their car.
So I was want to say, legally, Stephanie, is what I understand is that winter parking on the lawn would be okay, But I don't know if the police has the police will have the authority to say yes or no. So I'm trying to see, do we have any issue there?
Wait, we're saying winter parking on the lawn would be okay, or winter parking on the street is going to be okay, or both?
That's my question.
Well, I don't know.
Yes.
You know
I
what?
thought Nick was just saying, they can be, sort of scoot as far off the road as they can, but if they're on the road, because there's no driveway, then they should be allowed to, with the understanding that, the plow, they're probably going to have to dig. I mean, I don't know what else to say either. You can't, you're not going to have a new rule for every block, right?
Right.
You're either going to say
No, I think we
you're either
can.
going to say no front yard parking or no front yard parking for people who have driveways, or
No, I think we leave this the way it is. And,
Okay.
like after it's been in effect for a while, we might come up with something else, like how about on these 4 blocks, we allow winter parking on the street?
Right.
Or, maybe we'll
I
find something
agree.
else. There's a solution down the road. I don't think we should change this right now anymore.
Okay, sounds good. We can let see
They have the ability to go to the building inspector, and as we see what some, like Teresa was saying, it's the big picture of this is positive and good. There's going to be a few people for whom it's a little difficult, and those people
Right.
could work things out with the building inspector. And as we see how much of that there is and what those cases are, we can come up with some other solution. But I wouldn't change this now.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, I got it.
We've spent a lot of time, we've bounced a lot of things. I know Stephanie's laughing, you know better than anybody.
Yeah, let's put
I
one
must
more
have
year
written
into
it.
it.
I think I have one
4
that says
years.
draft 19. That's what it says, 19.
We've really
4 years.
hashed this out back and forth, every case scenario. I mean,
4 years.
Yeah, this is
Okay,
4 years.
done. Close the book.
Done. Finito. Absolutely.
fine. Does anyone
All right,
else?
so you have to close the public hearing, right? And
Is
then
there anybody
make a
that's
motion.
listening online that would like to make a comment? I know some people have possibly are listening online. Is there a number they can call in? Anybody have any comments?
Cindy, any comments, calls, or anything, Cindy?
No, no calls.
Okay, any other board members have any comments? Okay,
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to make a resolution to adopt local law number 4, and I will read that right now. Whereas a resolution was duly adopted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Buchanan for a public hearing to be held by said village board at the municipal building to hear all interested parties on a proposed local law to amend Chapter 21119 entitled Accessory Structures and Uses to the Code of the Village of Buchanan. And whereas notice of said public hearing was duly advertised in the official local newspaper, and whereas said public hearing was duly held at a regular scheduled meeting of the village board on August 11th at 7:30. And all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf or in opposition to said proposed local law or any part thereof. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the village, after due deliberation, finds it in the best interest of the Village of Buchanan to adopt said local law. Now, be it therefore resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Buchanan hereby adopts said local law number 4/2020, amending Chapter 21119, entitled Accessory Structures and Uses to the Code of the Village. And be it therefore resolved that the village clerk be and hereby is directed to enter said local law in the minutes of this meeting and in the local law book of the Village of Buchanan, and to give due notice of the adoption of said local law to the Secretary of the State of New York. On a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was unanimous. Okay, resolution declaring the renovations to the Veterans Pavilion project to be a type 2 action under SECRA. We, just as a quick review, I was able to get funding, a grant through Senator Harcum, through the SAM grant, and we got $125,000 to do renovations at the pavilion. And we're still waiting to do this, but we had to declare the renovations as a type 2 action. So any comments or before I read the resolution from board members?
Just want to thank Sam.
Yes, Sam's a good guy. So is Senator Harkam. We thank him for this money. We had some renovations to do there. That's been up since the 70s, so we needed to do some structural and some things there. Anybody, Cindy, anybody call in with any comments on this?
No.
Okay, all right, so I'm going to read the resolution then. Whereas the Village Board of Trustees is entertaining the Veterans Pavilion renovation project, which involves roof repair of structural beams, snow guards, and electrical repairs to the pavilion known as the project. Whereas the cost of the renovation is estimated to be $125,000, and the village has applied for a state and municipalities facilities program, SAM grant, in the amount of $125,000.
You should.
Whereas the village board has determined that the proposed action is a type 2 action pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, Part 617 NYCRR, commonly known as SECRA, because of Part 617.5C, the renovations constitutes 1, maintenance or repair involving no substantial changes in existing structure or facility, and replacement, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of a structure or facility in kind on the same site, including upgrading buildings to meet building, energy, or fire codes, unless such action meets or exceeds any of the thresholds in Part 617.4. Whereas type 2 actions are not subject to review under Part 617 because these actions have been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment or otherwise precluded from environmental review under Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law. Now therefore be resolved that the Village Board of Trustees hereby determines that the proposed action is a type 2 action and that is hereby not subject to review under SECRA. On a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Next, we have a resolution authorizing a tax certiorari settlement. Do any of the board members have questions, or does our attorney or Marcus have any comments on this?
We discussed this at our last workshop. This is a tax cert that I think is beneficial to the village getting behind us, is recommended by our tax certiorari attorney. Like I said at the last meeting, this is the only pending tax cert for this year and next year. And actually, I think it's a very good settlement, and it's recommended that we move forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So I'm going to read the resolution now. Whereas petitions have been filed by the property owner below challenging real property tax assessments on the village's assessment roll with respect to the following parcels. The property owner is Equity Enterprises of 3 Greentown Road, and the years are 2013 to 2020. Whereas petitioner's court challenge is now pending in the tax certiorari part of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, and whereas the village and the property owner have reached a mutually agreeable resolution with regard to the assessments at issue in the court challenges. Now therefore be resolved, the special counsel to the village is authorized to execute a settlement on behalf of the village for assessments for no less than the following. The refund of village taxes amount to $5,440.83. On a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to also make a motion to authorize the use of the pool parking lot to Joseph Dina on October 2nd, 2020, and he has supplied insurance for the event. On a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and I would like to make a motion to ratify the memorandum of understanding, the agreement with the police. Memorandum of agreement with the police,
Contract.
the contract, correct.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dwayne.
So we have been negotiating and we have come to the end of the negotiations. So I need the board's approval to go forward with this. On a motion,
So moved.
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 The next is a motion for a budget transfer of $27,303 from contingency to law, other expenditures on line A 1420.46 to cover the costs for special counsel regarding Indian Point intervention. This is, the amount of this money is for legal fees. This was something the board felt, and I felt was very important, that we become an intervener in the process of the sale of Indian Point. And we split the cost with the town of Cortland. We split the cost with the school. We are now an intervener in the proceedings, and I think it's important that we are, because we were not an intervener for the sale, and we could not set any terms or have anything in the agreement. The interveners with the closing of Indian Point was Entergy, the state of New York, and Riverkeeper, the three men in the room. So we had no say. So it was important that as we go through the sale agreement that we are part of, we are involved in the process. One of the other plants that was closing in Massachusetts, I'll give you a reason why we need to be an intervener, because the village's interest must be represented. And if we're not an intervener, we are not at the table. So in Massachusetts, what happened, Holtec made an agreement with the community, and the community got trees. No. Yeah, no, we are not settling for trees. So, but if we're not at the table, there is no way we'll be able to negotiate any type of an agreement. You know, so we're looking to protect the village, and we're looking for things like who's going to repave the road after the decommissioning. Certainly, we're not going to put that expense out of the village taxpayer dollars when we did not, you know, do any damage to the road. So the next couple of years, there's some heavy duty negotiations between Holtec will be happening between a lot of different entities. So it's just important that we're at the table for these negotiations. So does the board, any other board members or our attorney have anything to say in reference to this? Are we good? Okay. So on a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Yep.
Yes.
All right,
Unanimous.
thank you. Okay, so moving along, Justice Court reports. Marcus, they're back on a limited basis, the courts?
Yes, they it's a certain number of appointments. In fact,
The
go ahead.
resolution for registrar.
Oh, registrar, that's right. That was the amended
Cindy,
agenda. That's right. Thank you,
You
Cindy.
know what, that was added on today, and I threw myself off. Thank you so much for reminding me, Cindy. I apologize. Okay, hold on, I'm just bringing this up. Okay, so we added something on the agenda today. It's a resolution appointing a registrar and deputy registrar of vital statistics. So, whereas it is necessary to appoint a registrar and deputy registrar of vital statistics for the Village of Buchanan, now be it therefore resolved that the mayor hereby appoints Cynthia Kempter as registrar and Sharon Murphy as deputy registrar of vital statistics of the Village of Buchanan for the period from August 11, 2020 through April 2022. And the vital statistics are any deaths and births in the Village of Buchanan. So they will be responsible for recording that. Any questions? We need a registrar in the village. So Cindy and Sharon will be doing that now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheech, you're muted. Cheech is speaking, but he's muted.
Uh-oh, that's not good.
Oh, sorry about that. Do we call her Madam Registrar now?
Yes, that's what you
I
do.
love it. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right. On a motion,
So moved.
So moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Cindy, for reminding me. And we're looking at, Cindy, we're looking at your beautiful desk with mounds of paper.
I know, don't you love it? Yeah.
You can't see my desk. I don't want anyone to see my desk. Okay, so Justice Court Report, June 2020, received and filed. Police Report, June 2020. I will just read a few things. Moving summonses, 13. Total calls, 146. Parking summonses, 10. So that's received and filed. Highway Department, July 2020, received and filed. Wastewater Treatment Plant, July 2020. I just want to mention something on this. On July 18th, we had a sewer main blockage on 4th Street. And what was found, okay, originally, let me just say that. Originally, people were saying that it was our plant that was getting renovated, our pump station that was there. Let me just say that it was not and did not have anything to do with our new pumping station. What happened is there was a lot of grease in the pipes and there were wipes. So in this month's newsletter, there's something that says no wipes, okay? The wipes, they say, are flushable. They are not flushable. They will either jam up your pipes in your house. That happened to one of my properties. I had to get Roto-Rooter in there. It was not flushable, just so you know. So once that goes into our system, it's also a problem for us at the sewer treatment plant processing that. So please, I don't care what it says on the package, please do not put the wipes down the toilet. The other thing is grease. Grease, please do not put grease down the pipes. It was a combination of things on 4th Street, which ended up clogging the line, backing up into one of our residents' homes and making a complete mess in their basement. The village, and I thank Marcus, he was on it right away. He called me and told me what was going on. Marcus is very good. I mean, it was a Saturday, he was right on it, and we did what we could. We took care of the resident. We had somebody there by 3 o'clock cleaning. And we took care of whatever else needed to be done for the resident. But it was, so please, I think we're gonna put this in the newsletter a lot. No wipes, no grease down the drain. The grease, if it does go through the system and doesn't get clogged, goes into our sewer treatment plant. Very difficult, causes problems at the plant, grease. So yep. Whoever's doing that, anybody in the village, I know the old timers used to do throw the grease down the pipes, but please don't do that anymore. There's other ways to get rid of the grease. It just causes a whole problem for us, and unfortunately it caused a huge problem for one of our residents. So that's what I wanted to mention on our wastewater treatment plant.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, the thing with the oil and the grease, what I do, and which maybe other people aren't aware of, is if you just pour that into like an empty coffee can or whatever container and just put it in your freezer and let it freeze, and you just keep filling it. When it's full, then you just throw it out.
Yep.
That's it, instead of pouring it down the drain or whatever. That's what I use. That's what I do. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's not just grease, because I mean, I've done plumbing work and opened up, the pipe underneath the sink, the trap, and it could be clogged up, and it's kind of a whole combination of sludgy stuff that can build up, food scraps, grease, hair, a lot of stuff can build up. The drain pipe from your sink is 1.5 inches to 2 inches. The drain pipes that go out to the street are 4 inches. But if things start clinging to the sides, whether it's wipes, grease, food scraps, so to be smart about it. What I do with my bacon grease is wipe it out of the pan with paper towels and put it in the garbage.
Garbage, yep,
so
absolutely.
So it's, and then hot water to clean out the pan. But to actually pour oil or grease in a drain, a slop sink drain or a kitchen drain is one of the worst things you could do.
All right, thank you. Yep, good points. Thank you. And we will keep an eye on that area. Going forward, we're going to do things differently there. So And I just wanted to mention something. How many gallons actually get processed at the sewer treatment plant? That's, you know, I had no idea. It's like over 7 million gallons a month. So just a little food for knowledge there. Food for thought, as they say. Building report for July 2020 received and filed. Okay, we're up to the attorney's report. Attorney Stephanie, this evening.
Okay, I have something for executive session. The only thing I have for public is we are finally going back in having a zoning board meeting. I think it's been maybe over 6 months. So we have 2 applications on, and I'll keep you guys posted. Just wanted to let you know we've got some movement, or perhaps some movement. And the only other thing I have is for executive session.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Stephanie. Administrator's report.
Yeah, a couple of quick little things. One is going back to one of the reports. Bob Wheeler met with a pool company today. We've been going back and forth, but we've had some leaks in the pool and we had issues with some pumps. The recommendation is that pool is over 40 years old. The equipment is over 40 years old. Highly recommended that there's no way we can fix something without something else breaking. The pumps are all rotted out. The pipes are all rotted out. The recommendation is to possibly go out to bid and replace the pumps and all the pipes, because else it might be more expensive trying to fix things as other things break. I know the mayor had a discussion with Bob about that as well. So I'm trying to get some information together with our engineer, possibly get the details, try to go out to bid, and then come back to the village board to see what that cost would be. I have no idea what it's going to be. I got some pictures. It's pretty bad because it's underground. There's always pumping, a lot of chemicals running through that equipment for all these years. It's being held by Band-Aids right now. So we need to do something. If we want to open up that pool for next year, we have to do it the right way. And I know the mayor had a discussion with Bob, so maybe Teresa, you want to say something else about that?
I know Bob also had mentioned the filters, that we really need to change the filter around. You know, unfortunately, I'm going to say something. A lot of money has gone through the village of Buchanan. When Con Edison was here, Entergy still paying, and unfortunately, over the years, not a lot of infrastructure work was done. So we have this pool that was built sometime in the 70s, and as we were going along, you know, we had our pumping station on 4th Street, we had, you know, the pool, and I'm not blaming any group, I'm not blaming any mayors, I'm not saying that, but unfortunately over the years the focus was not on infrastructure and looking at things like that. So now, you know, as we come into probably the worst financial time that the village has seen, you know, we're looking at replacing some heavy infrastructure. The pool, I believe, was built sometime in the 70s. I want to say 77, 78, and not many upgrades or things like that have been done. I know that the pipes that will be replaced will be with PVC, which is the smarter way. It's plastic instead of metal. So let's put that out to bid. Otherwise, you know, and one of the things, maybe the saving grace is we didn't open up the pool, because if it's, Marcus, I didn't see it, if it's that bad, I don't know what would have happened if we would have had a pool failure. So one thing I can really say about this board, we have really done a lot of infrastructure work, and when we got the money from the gas pipeline, we did a lot of infrastructure work then. So that's always been like a priority for this board. And it's just, you know, you can't, I know things cost money, but sometimes you just can't close your eyes to it. You have to address the problem. And now here we are faced with this problem, and we have to address it, and we will.
Yep, and Teresa makes a good point. One of the things that we have, the children's pool and the main pool share the same filtering system. The new regulations are they're supposed to be separate. So, we'll come to the new standards. It'll be safer, it'll be cleaner. Like right now, the filters have to be cleaned every week. Under the new system, it has to be cleaned every month. So there'll be a savings there too. So the overall cost is going to be probably expensive, but we'll know more after we go out to bid and the board can decide, is it worth to make the repairs or make whatever decision you guys want to do in the future. But let's get the numbers together, make sure we need the new specs, and we'll have that discussion after the bid process is completed. So that's something I just learned today. So I want to let you know about that. The other thing is everybody knows about the storm we had. We lost, the main reason we had to cancel the last meeting was we lost internet access. A lot of us didn't lose electricity, thank God. A few people in Buchanan lost it. If you've been watching the news, other communities got hit tremendously bad. There's a whole bunch of people that still don't have electricity in like the town of Bedford, Chappaqua, still fighting for electricity. Something that I learned doing that, we've had conference calls with Con Edison every single day, including Saturdays and Sundays, to get updates to what's going on. And I represented the village at every one of those calls. We actually missed, not us, but Ortiz was not on the calls, and everybody was asking about Ortiz and Verizon. So I reached out to them, and they said they didn't know anything about the conference calls. So they finally got them on the calls as well. Learned something new. A lot of people have Verizon, no plug to Verizon, and nothing bad about Optimum, but the technologies are different, because I wanted to find out how come everybody have Verizon. They didn't lose it, even though they still have electricity. People have Verizon, didn't lose it, but people have electricity lost Optimum or Ortiz. Found out what happened was that Ortiz network is actually to go through nodes that need electricity, while Optimum is on fiber optic from the location to your home. So files. So they're not connected directly to electrical system on the poles. So a lot of people with Verizon did not lose connectivity. Optimum,
it didn't even blink for me. I stayed up and running on FiOS, so I was
correct. Correct. So
I think that was one of the biggest frustrations. We did not have many power outages here in the village, which was good. We were fortunate. You heard the town calls. They kept calling and saying, so we did have, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mark.
No, go ahead. Absolutely.
We had Upper 3rd Street. There was a tree down. We also, the biggest problem was really in front of Entergy there. There was a big tree down, a lot of wires down. But those basically were our trees that were down. Our highway department was out there as soon as they could to clear the roads, as soon as they were de-energized, the power lines. So we were pretty much up and running quickly, but I think the biggest frustration for people was because I know I got a few calls on my phone from people who have Optimum, and I'm not, just so you know, I'm not promoting either one. I'm staying out of that. But they were very frustrated that they didn't have their phone, they didn't have their TV, they didn't have their internet. So that was a huge frustration, because there were a few people. And as of today, how many people are we? 100? One person with power. One person. Yep. But most people did not lose power in the village. We were spared this storm, but remember, there's more storms coming. But thank you, Marcus, for being on the calls. I was on one of the calls with Optimum, so it was an interesting call.
So just to let everybody know, the state is going to have actual hearings with the Public Service Commission with all the utilities, including Verizon and Ortiz, over this. Ortiz got a lot of frustration. Their phone system crashed, so a lot of people couldn't get through, even though they were on hold for an hour. So all these are going to be addressed by the state legislature in the next couple of weeks. So if anybody has any complaints, they can file a complaint with the Public Service Commission. So that's what's going on right now. So I want to let you know that. The Route 9 corridor should be completed. It's mostly done through the village of Buchanan. They're saying that the project would be totally completed by August 28th. And that's, through all the communities, the Route 9A. So the job is almost completed. They have a couple little cleanup things to do in Buchanan, but most of the work is completed with the new 9A corridor as well. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
And I just wanted to go back to the storm for a little bit. I was sending out code reds because I wanted the residents to be aware, but not realizing that people who had Optimum could not hear any of the code reds, any of the updates, any of the communications. So something like this is going to happen again. We're in the middle of hurricane season, and we want to be able to communicate with you. We want to be able to tell you what streets are closed. We want to be able to tell you, different things, where you can get ice, where you can get this, and if you need any help. So going forward in the future, please, if anything like this happens and you're not getting code red, please always call the village hall. The ladies there are great. If you need assistance with anything, they will help you. If you need to contact somebody, they will help you. One of the things that we need to really push people to do is to sign up for our alerts and to be able, so we can get the information right out to you on a text or something like that. We didn't open up any of the heating, cooling centers because of COVID. Normally, under different circumstances, we would have opened up the second floor at Village Hall for people to come in to cool off. This is just some challenging times, and we're just, I guess, fortunate with COVID. We haven't had many people test positive here in the village. We just had another person the other day was confirmed that had it, but overall, we did pretty well with that. We want to continue to do that. But when these situations happen, any type of emergency, we will send out code reds. But if you're not getting the code red, please, please, please call Village Hall to see what the updates are and tell us if you need any help at all. Our board is very good. If you needed anything, any assistance, we'd be right there to help you. Our police department was out during the storm. Our fire department was out protecting wires. The highway department was good with the cleanup. You know what? We all work as a team here. This is a great community. And you know what? It's all about the village and it's all about the residents. So I just want everyone to know that, because like I said, there'll be more storms coming.
Can I just mention about Code Red?
Yes.
So please sign up for it. You can get it by phone or text or email. If you have a login, you could go back in and add your text or email. And now I actually learned what I was doing wrong. So if you had signed up for it before and you didn't get it, I know how to do it right now. So in the future, you could get all three if you want.
Okay, good. It's a learning process. We're getting it. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you. As I mentioned before, we have someone turning 100 on August 20th.
Not me.
Oh, I thought it was you, Nick. Her name is Josie Vavrick. She lives on Bannon Avenue. So at 1:30 on Thursday, August 20th, I know Cheryl, the senior president, is arranging a lot of this. We're going to have like a caravan, the police department, the fire departments, the emergency vehicles. We're going to have on the street that day, the seniors are going to park on the side of the street. We're going to give Josie a proclamation. There's going to be a sign on her front lawn. The village board is going to give her a beautiful flower dish, a dish garden. And there's going to be cake. What we're going to do, I hope it's not hot like today. But we're going to do is we'll sing her happy birthday, of course. There's not much more we can do. Otherwise, we would have had something at Village Hall, but so we want to do something for her. And then we're also going to have cake, but the cake is all going to be pre-sliced and packaged and just handed out, so nobody has to touch anything. So anybody that would like to come by that day and wish Josie a happy birthday, please stop by.
Give the time again, Teresa.
It's at 1:30.
On what day?
Next Thursday, August 20th.
August 20th. Okay.
I think it was Yeah, there's some information in the newsletter too.
Okay.
Okay. Also next Thursday at 5 o'clock is, we're going to be celebrating the women's suffrage. So the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. It's the 100th anniversary of that. So there's going to be something, we'll put it on Facebook. It's going to be as a Zoom meeting. It won't be live, it will be live, but we will be on a Zoom meeting, and Supervisor Puglisi will be there, and also the League of Women's Voters. This year, a little more challenging than others, the Village of Buchanan will be sponsoring the 9/11 ceremony. It's going to be done on Zoom, but what I'd like is to have some of the things done at the memorial there in Croton. So some of the filming done there, and the rest of it will be on Zoom. So I'm looking for a board member or board members who would like to help me coordinate this, the ceremony. It's going to be, you know, unfortunately, it's always a beautiful ceremony right on the water, and but this year we're not going to be able to have everybody there, so we will improvise. So anybody on the board that would like to help me to get this together, please let me know.
I'll help you, Teresa.
I'll help you.
All right, good.
Count me in.
My 9/11 people. Okay, thank you. We'll talk tomorrow. We'll talk about different things. Okay, thank you.
Teresa, excuse me, the
Sure.
women's suffrage you said will be, what, at our next workshop or our next
No,
meeting?
next Thursday at 5 o'clock. It's going to be a Zoom meeting.
Oh.
So I will get you the information on that.
Okay.
And then we'll put that out on Facebook. So anybody that would like to see that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I only have one last thing, but I'd like to talk to the board, and I'd like to talk to the residents. I like to talk to everyone about change. The village is going through one of the biggest changes it has ever experienced, other than Con Edison coming to the village. That was a huge change. All of our infrastructure came in. It was good. It was a good time for the village. So when the announcement was made, January 2017, that's when the change process started. And that change is continually happening. And, you know, I've gotten a lot of complaints. The taxes are going up. What are we doing? What are you, crazy? And all this other stuff. People are upset. I understand that. You know, all of us on the board, everyone's taxes are affected here. So I do understand that. I do understand people are on fixed incomes. We are trying to mitigate the best way we can. Change is going to continue to happen. Unit 3 will close the end of March next year. So that's another loss for us. But, you know, we can hide our heads in the sand. We can yell and scream. I hope change doesn't come. But change is here, it's happening. And it's how we deal with this change, how we kind of look at the change. You know, we need to really embrace it, look at it as an opportunity for change, an opportunity to do things better. And you know what, you can't blame the board. You know, we are trying our best. We live here too, and we love this community. So it's not the board's fault that this plant closed. It's not the board's fault that we're in this position. If you want to yell and scream, please help us. Please call the governor, call Riverkeeper. It was their decision without us being in the room to do this. So we are working on something. There is a bill that was passed in the Senate. There was a bill that was passed in the Assembly. It's going to be headed up to the governor, and the governor has to sign it to allow us to be able to tax the spent fuel casks that are on the property there. So we are going to need we're going to need your help. We all need to work together to get this done. the fighting and the different things that are going on, this is not the time, guys. This is the time to work together as a team. We need to stick together. We need to get things done. We need to look, what is our future? What does our future look like? What do you want the village to look like? It's going to change. So what changes would you like to see? What do you think would make the village better? I have talked to Holtec. They do understand the situation. We have to build our tax base. There's no commitments made, but they understand. So if there's any property that becomes available, then okay, then we are going to look at what can be developed there. I would ask everyone to please, please, please tune into the next workshop. We have a company that wants to come in here. The board does not think it's beneficial for our community. As Marcus has said, this is a manufacturing of a the
windmills.
And they're going to manufacture and then ship it somewhere else. They're looking to take 100 acres from the town of Cortland that the town of Cortland owns on the riverfront. And their eventual plan is to take over the whole 240 acres of the Entergy property. This is manufacturing, and as Marcus has said, this is not where you're going to get your top dollar in tax dollars. And we don't want that whole area taken up for manufacturing. So I really, the board needs your support. We need to have your input. We want the residents involved. What would you like to see on that property over there? What would you like to see in some other developable properties? And I'm going to say this too. Nick had introduced something, an overlay district. An overlay district, the town of Yorktown is looking at that now. They're embracing that and running with that. And what that helps is a tool for developers. It's a tool for developers to develop. We need to bring in some development into the village to help our tax base. Because otherwise, if we don't start developing and building up our tax base, the $3 million we're losing is going to come from the taxpayers. And that's not fair either. So we have to be open-minded. We have to embrace change. I don't like change. I hate change. But sometimes you have to look at change and say, what is this opportunity and what can I do with this? How can I make things better? What can we do differently? So I'm thinking about either having a special meeting or bringing together the group, the 2021 Buchanan group that I had formed, and just to get some thoughts of what residents are thinking, what are their, what are they looking at? And to not change is going to be fatal for us. So this is our life now. This whole 2020 has been change. We're in the middle of the change. So what can we do to make the village even better than it is and help build up our tax base? And we want to hear from you. We want the input of the village residents. So Nick, I know that your thoughts of doing the overlay district, I don't know if everybody really understood that it was a tool to help with development. I think at the next workshop, after we speak to the people with the windmill people, I think that might be an opportune time for the board to start talking about different things. And we have been looking at things. It's not like we haven't looked at anything. There's different developers that have approached us. But we want to look at smart development too. So I just needed to say that because I know everyone's upset. I know everyone's frustrated. I know everybody has fear, but we just need to go forward and we need to work things out. And we do have an opportunity with the state that will give us money, the cessation fund, which will be a bridge that will give us some time to get us further into the development. So I'd like to hear anybody that would like to call me personally and discuss it, anybody that would like to be in at the next meeting and put some of their thoughts in. We have talked about another apartment house, not apartment, a huge building. Yeah, I guess it's an apartment building over by, across from Entergy, which is, zoned more industrial. We're not looking to put all industrial on the Entergy property. We have different thoughts. We've hashed out different things, but remember this, there's a large portion of that property that will not be available for quite a while until it's decommissioned, but there might be outlying areas that can be developed. So I just felt that I needed to say that. There's a lot of fighting and a lot of anger and a lot of different things going on, but we need to focus on the village. We need to focus on going forward. So thank you for letting me take a few minutes of time to say that. Trustee Pasquale, what do you have for us this evening?
Thank you for saying that, Teresa. I'm glad you actually brought that out, and I hope a lot of people do see that. I hope everybody's well, and I mean, the way the summer is going, we're not able to really do anything that we normally can do, and not meet with people that we would like to. So I really have like nothing to update. Everything's kind of like status quo. So that's about it from me.
All right, and thank you. And say hello to Mickey Mouse for us next week. Thank you. And be safe there.
I will.
Trustee Zachary, what do you have for us tonight?
Thank you, Teresa. Well, one thing I'd like to just sort of say yay to New Yorkers, because this whole COVID thing has been pretty insane, and it started out as a major issue in New York, and the rest of the country was like, damn New York. Now we're probably about the best as far as COVID goes. Probably had to come up with the best plan and program, and reopening is still a challenge. But I think New Yorkers, I mean, I go to the city a day or two a week, and almost everybody's wearing masks. I was just up in the Finger Lakes for a week. Everybody's wearing masks. And I go to the stores and things around here, almost everybody's wearing masks. New Yorkers have been quite good. And it's not just by accident that we went from one of the worst places to be in the country to one of the best places to be in the country. So yay for New Yorkers. And I wanted to follow up, Teresa, thank you for those words about change. And I wanted to follow up as far as next workshop, just to confirm, because I always like people to know what's coming up at the workshops. We will have, we're going to have AKRF in, which is a company that wants to do something on the Entergy property related to windmills. So that's going to be an important discussion. Are we having anybody in about the Griffin property at the next workshop?
I can update you on that. They got back to me. They said they're probably gonna get back to me till later on in the year. They understand what they expect. They have to set up an escrow account.
Okay.
And stuff like that. So they said they're not ready for that yet. So I'm still waiting for them.
In a previous workshop, when we discussed it, we agreed that it would be helpful to get the renderings that they had as part of their demonstration, part of their presentation. There were renderings that showed the building in the context and the different parking levels and residential levels. If we could get them, but I don't know if we've gotten those, but if we can get our hands on those renderings.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I totally remember. I thought they did provide that information. I'll go through my emails. I thought I sent that some time ago. Well, I'll double check.
Okay. Maybe
I'll send it again.
Some of these emails are like dozens and dozens of pages, and it's easy to miss a drawing.
No, but I'll double check.
I want to make sure we have those renderings. And we're going to ask them if they had a breakdown of the apartments in terms of one bed studio, one bedroom, two bedroom.
It was 60-40, 60 one bedroom, 42 bedrooms.
Oh, that's it. No studios and nothing bigger than two.
That's right.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's at the next workshop, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that and the AKRF and to discuss the overlay zone might be a little too much for one workshop. That sounds like it could be a little too much. Maybe we need to keep one into the next workshop. But it sounds like we will discuss the overlay zone again in the next workshop. And I'd just like to give a quick overview of what we're talking about. The mayor did refer to it as a developer tool, which it is. It's a village tool, it's a zoning tool, and it can be a developer tool. It's not a developer carte blanche. It does.
Can I just interrupt? I think I meant to make it as, I meant to say, and I thought I said a planning tool. That's, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, well, it is all of that. It is a planning tool. It is a zoning tool that helps you, it might, some places use overlay zones for industrial areas. Sometimes they use them for waterfront areas. It could be, any place that you want to rezone in a relatively easy way that will encourage a certain type of actions and development, something beneficial for the village. I've been here in the village for 29 years. I've been involved with either the zoning board or the village board for about 21 of those 29 years. And I've been hearing people talk about, how we can't get businesses in here and there's nothing we could do, or we should do something, but we should improve, I've heard a lot of talk, but no plan and no action. And, so I think that this is a something like everything else we might see in a year or two. It needs a little tweaking, but I think this is a great starting point to try to make things a little easier for developers to come in, develop guidelines to improve the appearance of that 9A corridor, and to make it more pedestrian friendly, more, just more beautiful in general. We can no longer say, that we can't change, because we'll either go backwards or we'll go forwards. Right now, we're just not, you just can't stay still. And the fact that we never needed that or we never did that is not an argument. We have to try new things and we have to move forward. It can only, if it works even a little bit, it can only improve property values and it can only bring in additional tax revenue. So it's an important thing. Also, I encourage residents to try to listen in at the next Zoom meeting. Unfortunately, not an in-person meeting. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
And thank you again, Teresa, for bringing that up and talking about that.
Trustee Jackson, what do you have for us this evening?
Good evening, Mayor and residents of the village of Buchanan, and I may say the beautiful village of Buchanan. Over the last couple of weeks, on my end of the village, I have spoken to a number of the residents who are out walking their dogs. Some young families here who've just moved in the last 3, 4, 5 years. The house next door to me just sold. We've got some new people coming in. And I've often said that the proximity to New York City was always a plus, that you could get small town Americana just 28, 30 miles from New York City. And that's a great selling point for the village. And as I've spoken to my local residents, they all pretty much agree that that's what drew them here. As a matter of fact, I had said back in '95 when I initially moved up here, I didn't even know there was an Indian Point nuclear power plant. And some of the other residents had said the same thing, but the character of the village, and more importantly, the services that the village offers are outstanding here in Westchester. And we should certainly be very proud of that, and also try and maintain that level of services to the residents. During the storm, we had a couple of trees come down, and I was phoned by a couple of residents locally, and we were able to work out the situation, and people were able to move on and get some of the trees removed and all of those things. About our development, we have to face the realities that, we are a small village. We don't have a lot of parcels that necessarily lend themselves to that. But I think to go along with some of the things that Nick said, we've got to be able to think outside of the box and reimagine those pluses that we have in the village and those things that are traditional to the village, but not necessarily be afraid to not seek another way of doing business and bringing business into the village. I'm an optimist. I think our better days are ahead of us, not behind us. Again, primarily because of our location and being a river town. I think that's always going to be in our DNA. And as the mayor said, I encourage, and as Nick has said, I encourage all residents to get involved, bring suggestions to the table as we explore what types of development can work, what types of development do those people who own the property want to see, and how we can make the best decision we can with the information that we have at hand, and certainly know that the village's well-being is what not only this mayor wants, but every trustee and every person who's actually employed by the village. So we've got some things ahead of us, but if we continue to be mindful of our history, of what we do have, and not be afraid to move forward, and to kind of quote Captain Kirk, boldly go where no village has ever gone before.
True.
Thank you.
Thank you. What do we have here? Deputy Mayor Funchin. What do you have for us tonight, Reggie?
Yeah. Well, mostly everybody said a lot of the things I was going to say things about. First, I want to thank you for the calls. I think they were very good to go out. I happened to be, my cable went out, but I happen to have a Verizon phone, so it was good to get that. And I think for most people who are experienced all over the metropolitan area, the worst thing is not having information and not having a clue of, well, is it only my house, or is it, only my street? So the calls which we got from you and which we got from the town of Cortland, I have to commend them for that. On the what you were saying about the taxes and everything, I want to make sure that the people in the village realize that it breaks our heart to have to raise taxes the way we do. And I don't mean to be a negative of any kind, but you haven't gotten your school tax yet. I just want to say that we have nothing in the village to do with the school tax. And that's the big elephant in the room, not our tax here. So and the other thing, as a trustee and a resident here, it still annoys me that we have no transparency from the superintendent of schools. We have no idea what our tax increase is going to be. I think for this village, and to the credit of the board and the mayor, we have been open and told people, not to the pennies, but we told them a good idea how much taxes were going up so that people can prepare for it. But I have no idea, as a citizen here, as a taxpayer, I have no idea what the school tax is going to be and how much it's going to be. The only thing I know is that the budget for the school went from 67 million to 80 million. So that's kind of a lot. We're trying to cut taxes, cut expenses here, and the school system is spending more money. But I don't know. Leave it at that particular thing. As far as the change is concerned, I understand. I hear what you say, Teresa. We're forced into certain changes, but we also have, as Dwayne says, keep the village somewhat the way it was. I still do not like the 9A corridor thing, because I think somebody's got to get out there and see how much traffic comes out of that train station and heads north. And if we're going to have a lot of residential people living there and or businesses, it's just going to be a clogged mess of traffic. I think we have to be very careful of how we go there on that particular area. Mention what Nick says about I'm proud to be a New York State resident. In fact, I heard today that because New York State is #1 in the country now with this virus, that Major League Baseball, because of what's going on, if anybody follows baseball, at one time they thought they would have their seasons like the hockey and the NBA and have what they call a bubble. That means all the teams would play in maybe 1 or 2 different sites. And as we all know, the NBA is playing in Florida, and in 2 cities in Canada, the NHL is playing. And I just heard today that the situation of baseball, they are getting some viruses within the teams and everything. And if they get through the season, they might go the same route as having a bubble, maybe two bubbles, and one of them will definitely be probably New York City, because we have the lowest rate of viruses in the country right now. The other thing that to be proud of is that today we will have 3 Major League Baseball teams playing in the state of New York, as the first game in Buffalo will be played today in many, many, many years. So I wish everybody for the rest of the summer that they can enjoy it as much as they can. Please check on your neighbors, check on everybody, because this is a difficult time for all of us. And I think what's coming more and more to pass now is we've kind of, as citizens, understand, like Nick is saying, it's good to see that everybody's wearing masks. And but I think what's hiding in the closet here is the mental problems. I mean, people are getting tired of being home. People who, have enough money and like to go on vacation can't go on vacation. It's unfortunately, I hate to say this as an American, but we're not welcome anywhere in the world because of our situation with our virus. So that caused for more problems. And as we see with the schools, what's happening in Georgia, I mean, 1,300 people have been quarantined because they all had to go back to school. So I pray every day for our country, and I pray every day for our community, and everybody just try to keep together. I'm out here on the corner many times, and the people going by, it encourages me, because our new community, which are the younger people and everything, all seem to be very, very nice people. And see them walking their dogs or or walking around, and everybody's friendly and nice. And I think that's one plus to this whole situation. So again, Mayor, I thank you for you are really doing a lot of work, and nobody knows that more than me. You do a hell of a lot of work in this village, and we're really lucky to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. That was very nice. I love this little community, and my roots are deep, so I want to see it prosper. And, and the whole board, you guys, my God, the hours, the times, the things that come up that we have to deal with. I mean, there's a few things in executive session that we'll deal with, and a lot of it is just cleaning up a lot of stuff that has gone on for so many years, and that was just shoved under the carpet and not addressed. And I'll give this board a lot of credit. It's that they're fearless. They will go out and they will address what needs to be addressed, and they will take care of it. So thank you.
Teresa?
And our addition, Marcus. Here,
No, don't worry about me. I just want to say,
Stephanie, I have to say, Stephanie, I'm just going to take the minute, because, not everybody gets thanked all the time. And, we just want to show our appreciation, because we work as a team. There's Cindy and Sharon in the office. We work as a team. We work for the benefit of the village. We try to do the right thing for the village. And that's one thing I can say about this board. It's what's in the best interest of the village. So that's why it's a lot of challenges, but I can honestly say that about this board.
And Teresa, I don't think a lot of people know about this. I think you got to say a couple words. That bill that was being passed about that decommissioning committee, that you fought against. I think people need to know what you did, because a lot of people don't know what happened behind the scenes there, and you stopped that bill from being passed. So I think you got to say something about that as well.
Oh my God, this was brutal. It was a fist fight right to the end, but it's not over. What had happened is there was a bill introduced by Senator Harckham and Assemblywoman Galiff, and what it is they want to set up a board, and it's an oversight board. Now let's go back to, we have Linda's, the supervisors, community unity group. We have the official, which I'm chairman of, the decommissioning oversight panel, and now another, oh, and not to mention the state also has Indian Point, which I'm involved in, another Indian Point panel. So now another layer, they want to put another layer on, and what they want to do in this legislation is not have the meetings locally. So the local stakeholders that are really affected by this decommissioning, they want to have the meetings in Albany. Okay, that's not helping us here. That's not for our community. And my biggest concern is they want to put on this panel people like Riverkeeper. Absolutely not. These people don't give a damn about our community. They didn't give a damn of what the effects would be when this plant closed, or the people that work there. And now you want to put them on a decommissioning panel? Oh, hell no. I have been fighting that tooth and nail. There is no need. Their tagline, Riverkeeper, their tagline is for the protection of the Hudson River and tributaries. Now, that 240 acres of Entergy property has nothing to do with the Hudson River. That will be a disaster. If this board gets installed, it will be a disaster for this community. The stakeholders that need to have the input and be at these meetings will not be able to. So I continue to fight with that. They're supposed to meet again in August. The board has been very supportive. You know what? We're going to fight that one. We don't need another layer. You know, if you want to do, if the state wants to have professionals, okay, a board of professionals to be boots on the ground. So the DEC, some nuclear experts, people who are actual nuclear experts. If you want to do things like that, this community has no problem with that. You know, we're not experts. Riverkeeper is not a nuclear expert. But to form this board as an oversight board, absolutely not. So that's, I have been fighting tooth and nail, and it's not over yet. I understand they're meeting again in August. So like I said, the board has been very supportive. They're right behind me on this. And you know, they're right behind me. They're right with me with everything that we're doing with the decommissioning and fighting all this. So, and we're not done yet. No, you wait. When that $15 million community fund comes, oh yes, that is going to be quite the fight. And I know this board has plans of how we're going to combat that, because that $15 million, the environmental and community fund, that should be going to the communities that are affected by this closure. No, so there's many fights ahead. There's very tough negotiations going forward, but you know what? We're up for it. We're ready to do this. So thank you, Marcus, for mentioning that. That's a whole nother thing. I might need people to call to the governor's office to express, you know, we'll get those numbers out. And also when that legislation that he has to sign comes up, I would like everyone in our communities to call the governor's office and say, please pass that legislation to tax the spent fuel. And also know the community, this oversight board that will meet in Albany is not needed. It is not for our community, and it will not help our community. Thank you, Marcus, for letting me mention that. That slipped out of my mind for a minute, but now it's back. Thank you. So, okay. So any other comments? Is there anybody on the line that would like to make a comment? Any other board members? Stephanie, Marcus, anyone that would like to comment on anything else? Okay, I'd like to then, Cindy, there's nobody on the line?
Nobody.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss contractual and employee issues. Thank you, everyone.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in
All
favor?
in,
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.